What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Thank you for joining me for another replay of battles that I have a 4 versus 4 on huge unit settings. This is a colossal affair on a brand new map that I don't think you've seen before. This is a new map submitted by Heath Horton, who makes a lot of scenarios and map content for the 3rd Age Reforged community. So thank you, Heath Horton, for the map, and thank you to everybody who participated. This is going to be a truly colossal struggle, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and let's jump right into the army compositions, and we get into the replay itself. I hope you guys enjoy. The first army we're looking at today is the forces of the High Elves, being commanded by yours truly. I'm bringing 2 units of Imladder's cavalry. These guys are really, really useful in the .91 meta because they are so fast. Speed is king in this. A lot of cavalry and a lot of infantry have been slowed down quite a lot. So if you have something that is very nimble, that can exploit chinks in an enemy's formation and capitalize on that to great effect, then you should definitely consider taking it because it will serve you very well, assuming that you don't get them killed very quickly, because these guys are quite vulnerable to missile fire. But in any case, I'm also bringing 4 or 5 units, I believe, of Sword Gwendi, who are a great new tar pit unit. I say new, but they function differently and their pricing is different, so they're great as kind of like skeleton warriors, essentially, from Warhammer. They soak up a lot of damage, they've got good defense, and can deal reasonable damage in return. Also bringing a couple units of Sindar Blademasters, still very formidable despite the fact that they only have 1 HP. A couple units of Mithlon Nobles as well to form up in my center, giving myself a very hard line that's not easily broken through. These guys actually got a buff in .91 as well. They've got about 30 extra men in the unit, so they're very, very sturdy, very reliable. Out in front, I've got a couple units of Elder Runway Archers, one of the few AP picks that are available to the High Elves in .91. These guys are essentially ranged javelins with a lot of ammunition. You need to protect them, however, because without them, you've got, like, Smiths of Erogen, I think, are your only other AP pick. And, yeah, these guys are a lot more useful than a melee unit that's quite slow. Also bringing a unit of Ballista, 1 unit of Elder Nobles, another AP pick for the High Elves. Actually, I forgot about these guys. They are also AP arrows, but they are extremely expensive. $18.50 for 1 unit. You will not be able to afford a second, trust me. Unless it's like an obscene money setting. But in any case, these guys have very formidable melee defense stats and are very, very powerful in melee with their sword as well. They stand up to cavalry extremely well because of their high mass, so they're just all around a very useful unit for the High Elves. Quite versatile. I am also bringing a single unit of Elder Runway Lancers to top off my entire force. These guys are a little bit weak, in my opinion. They cost about 900, you can only get 1 of them, but they have a hard time standing up to heavy cavalry from other factions, which got a significant buff in .9 and beyond. But still, they are one of the few heavy cavalry picks available to the High Elves, so it's worth it to take 1 if you're on a tight budget. Moving on now to the forces of Khan, being commanded by Von Mountain. He's brought some Nurad Militia, essentially a throwaway cannon fodder unit. They have decent attack values. I think they've got about 12 or 15, so they're not bad, but they have terrible, terrible armor and not the greatest defense. The complete opposite of that unit is the Nurad Footmen, of which Von Mountain has 4. These guys are the best of the Khanish heavy infantry. They've got about 40 defense and AP. These guys, I love the Nurad Windblades. They are so strong. These are the Uber Cav unit for Khan. I think they're AP, huge amount of defense and attack stats. They are also 3 HP, making them very, very sturdy. Von Mountains also bring some Nerniak infantry. They are medium infantry that also are armed with bows. A lot of Khan's forces are armed with bows, or they are mounted forces. So Khan is very much your traditional kind of barbarian nomad faction. Von Mountain's also bringing a unit of Brotherhood of the Axe, AP, multiple HP units. These guys are very, very strong on the charge. Also bringing some Variag Warriors, who are essentially a not as powerful version of the Brotherhood of the Axe. It's bringing a unit of the Brotherhood of the Lance in the back, a very powerful cavalry unit, not as strong as they used to be, however. And finally, he's got a single unit of Brotherhood of the Bow, who are also decent in melee once they've shot, I believe, their AP arrows. Moving on over here to the forces of the Dwarves, being commanded by St. Toady the Pacifist. He's got a very nicely rounded force that unfortunately for him lacks cavalry, and you'll see why in a little while. He's bringing a large number of Dwarven Miners. These guys are quite inexpensive. They're also AP, as many of the Dwarven infantry tend to be, making them fairly decent for what they cost if you support them well with some sturdier units. Like this Ironfoot Guard, for example. These guys have like 43 defense, AP, a ton of damage, also 2 HP, making them very sturdy line infantry. Out in front here, we've got some Ironfoot Axe Throwers who really need no introduction. They throw very, very powerful but short-range AP missiles. Let's also bring in some Khazad Warriors for our front line. These guys don't cost a lot, but actually I think they cost a little bit more in this patch, but for what they cost, they can do a lot of damage. Toad is also bringing a unit of Khazad sentries. Pikes in this patch are very, very strong. You just need to keep them away from their natural predators, that being javelins, missiles generally, and cavalry charges from the rear. He's also got a unit of Ballistas and Mithril Guard. We love these guys. They are exactly the same as they have been in Reforged since their introduction. Heavily armored, multiple HP units that can hold the line for pretty much ever. I think that basically does it for Toady's force. Let's move on now to the fourth and final army for this team, that being the Woodland Realms. The Sylvan Elves have been split into two different factions. There's the Woodland Realms and Lothlorien. Woodland Realms inherited basically all of the Mirkwood units that were previously present for the Sylvan Elves, and Lothlorien has a bunch of new units on its own, and most of the Galadrim units that were present in the previous roster as well. Archangel is bringing 4 units of Hiri Dirith, which is I believe this is a new unit that doesn't really exist outside of Reforged. These guys are the sword and board line infantry counterpart to the other Hiri, etc. units like the Hiri Lang or the Hiri Bang. He's also bringing some Woodland Patrol. You can't see them here, but these guys are a brand new unit for the Woodland Realms. They are quite swift. They have a cool new model and a really wicked-looking glaive. They are also, I believe they're anti-cavalry, but they're not AP anymore, making them very useful for supporting cavalry because of how swift they are. He's also bringing, I believe, 2 or 3 units of the Hiri Bang, and there's some Royal Guard in here, Elder Palace Guard, something like that. There's a lot of like Elder Palace something or other units in this faction, but he's also got a unit of Woodland Sentinels and some Hiri Lang, I think, hanging out in here as well. More Sindar Blade Masters, and of course we've got some cavalry. A couple units of Elder Pathfinders. For the Woodland Realms faction, the Elder Pathfinders actually got a really nice buff. They're still not the best cavalry around, but they are quite effective, and I think they're more than a match for units like the Elder and Lancers, for example. So they're not bad, not the greatest, but still a worthy pick for this army, because you definitely need Cav to defend yourself as the Elves. But that basically does it for this faction, for this team rather. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at what the others are taking. Starting with the forces opposite myself and Von Mountain, we have the army of Dale, being commanded by Coldfront, who actually has a YouTube channel of his own and does replays. So if you guys are hungry for more Total War content, I'm going to put a link for you guys down in the description, and you can go and check him out. It's great to support the community, so make sure you go and, yeah, give it a look. But he is bringing some Dalian cavalry to the tune of, I believe, about 2 units of them. He's also got some Earls who got a huge facelift in 0.9 and beyond. These guys now have like 52 defense and like 2 HP. They're very, very strong. Dale has retained its Elder Avari units. These are the Elder Avari pikemen, some of the best pikes in the game. He's also bringing some Dalian spearmen here to compose his front line, which he has mixed in with his Bardian marksmen. I think he's got like 2 or 3 units of these guys. Very good, very cost-effective, quite numerous archers as well, who I think they lack AP now, but they are very, very good and have quite competitive missile damage. I think they got about 10. He's also bringing some Elder Avari archers to the tune of about 2 units of them. Very expensive, very accurate, a definite answer to some of my Elven archers across the field. His front line consists of some loose formation pikemen. I think this is probably to have his pikes in the area, but also not have to worry as much about incoming arrow fire, which is a smart idea. He's got 2 units of them to compose that front line. And behind them, we've got a line of Laketown Spearmen stretching from sea to Shining Sea all the way across his army. And behind them, he's got some Dalesmen, and finally a unit of Dale Swordmasters, which I believe is where the General's hanging out. No, I may be wrong about that. It might be in the Earls in that case. I think he's also got some hidden Athela Rangers around here, but I'll point them out if we see them. Moving on now to his ally. This is Glowbox commanding the Kingdom of Arnor. Arnor in this patch is extremely strong. They are very potent, and they've got some great units for the cost that it takes to bring them. I would say that they are probably the most cost-efficient faction in 0.91. But Glowbox is bringing some Knights of Inuminas, some Bodyguards, both 2 HP heavy cavalry, not easy to take down. His front line consists almost uniquely of Arnor pikemen. He's also bringing some dismounted Arthur Day Knights, a new unit for Arnor, a 2-handed sword unit costing about 700 or so florins, and being extremely strong for their cost. Now, you can't see them in here, but he's also got some Dunedain Troll Slayers. I think 2 units. This is probably them right there, and that's maybe where the some of his other units, like the Dunedain Rangers in general, are hanging out. But the Troll Slayers are probably the cheapest Uber unit in the game. They cost 1,000 florins. You can bring 2 of them. They've got 20 charge bonus. They're AP in melee and at range. The only real drawback to them is that they don't have a lot of ammunition. Actually, no, here they are. Here's one of his Troll Slayers, so maybe he's got like 2 or 3 units of them, and some more Dunedain Rangers over there, or something like that. He's also bringing another unit of Knights of Inuminas. He's got 2 of them, 1,300 or so cost for them, but they are some of the best cav in the game. Globox is also bringing a couple units of dismounted Dunedain Knights to round off his infantry force. Over here, we have the Kingdom of Rune being commanded by Vislak. We've got a lot of new units here. I don't think you guys have seen the Easterling War Chariots yet. They're a really nice mobile Scourge unit, skirmish unit, very powerful on the charge, but once they get into melee, they tend to fall apart really, really fast, like astoundingly fast. So you need to be wise with how you use them. Getting flanking charges like along the longest axis of a unit is probably the best way, I think, to charge them into things. He's also bringing some Balcloth Tribesmen, very efficient Javelin unit, Combo's Chosen, who are AP, multiple HP, so much defense on these guys. They are monsters in this battle, and I think they cost about 1,300 to bring. He's also bringing some Loke Gamp Rim, efficient Pike Spearmen, also got some Loke Flag Rim in the front. AP, a little bit less armor and defense. They got a bit of a nerf in 0.9, or 0.91 rather, but they are still very strong. Out in front, we got some Clan Crossbows to round off his the skirmish force that he's brought with him. He's also bringing some Clan Guard and a unit of Catapults. There's a lot of AP in this army. Moving on now to his cavalry contingent, we've got the Combo's Dragon Knights, a brand new unit in 0.91. They are sexy silver versions of the Runic Cataphracts. I think they're also AP with multiple HP. He's also bringing a single unit of Bodyguard, which is basically an upgraded unit of the standard Runic Cataphracts. Moving on over here, we have a brand new faction in 0.9. These guys are Dol Amroth, being commanded by Poptovidak. He's got a large number of Halberdiers to the tune of about 2 or 3 units of them. A brand new unit, which are AP anti-cavalry, very, very sexy in defensive formation when being attacked from the front. He's also brought some Dol Amroth men arms with their armor upgrades. Look at how sexy they are. Beautiful. In mind then, we've got some Coastal Wardens, some Knights of the Silver Swan who got a big buff in 0.91. These guys are now 2 HP and a little bit faster, so they're a little bit easier to get into combat and are able to stand up to arrow fire much, much better than they used to. He's also bringing some Tarnostian Guard, another very cheap unit that also got a nice buff in 0.91. Out front, we got some Dol Amroth Archers who got an attack buff because nobody liked these guys in the previous iteration, but now they are definitely worth it to bring and a lot cheaper than some of the more elite archers available to Dol Amroth. Finally, we've got a unit of Tirith Air Knights. These guys work a lot differently than they used to. They've got 20 charge, but 6 damage, which is AP, but still it's not very much. You want to keep these guys on the move all the time and constantly charging. I think he's got some hidden units in there as well, to the tune of about 2 units of the Nimbardel Rangers, who are one of the few AP missile units left in the game. So they're very good for Dol Amroth, who doesn't really have a whole lot of options in terms of their AP. You know, I am missing one unit. He's got a unit of Haven Guard in here as well. I remember from the battle. Haven Guard are very strong. I think they have a little bit less units than they used to, but they are 3 HP with very, very powerful attack and defense stats. But that basically does it for the arm compositions. Let's go ahead and let's get into the replay. So as soon as the battle started, I realized that I had committed a very grievous error. Many of my troops are extremely vulnerable to missiles. They are the lighter version of the High Elven soldiers, and they are facing down the business end of a very formidable Dale skirmish line. This is going to turn to our advantage in a very strange way. Because my infantry was so close to his units, they were the first targets that they chose to go after, which gave my High Elven archers here the opportunity that they needed to begin to fire into those skirmishes. You can see that they are already taking a terrible toll on some very elite units. These Eldarvari archers have lost like 30 or so archers in the space of about 15 seconds. So they're getting cut down quite grievously. Dale doesn't like this, and he's going to move forward, try and silence my skirmish line, but he is not going to find me unprepared. I have my Eladros cavalry ready and waiting for him. They're now going to charge into battle against these light cavalrymen, and they are going to slaughter them. The High Elves, these Eladros cavalry, this is the kind of fight that they are good at. Picking on other light cavalry that don't have nearly as good armor and attack values as they do. You can see that those Dalian cavalry are being repulsed with great loss. At the same time, Dale is moving in with some of his Earls. I'm going to try and delay that engagement by throwing in my Eldar and my Lancers. My Eldar and my Lancers are not prepared for this kind of fight. And I can see Dale also moving in with some spear support. So I'm going to try and pull them out of there as quickly as possible, move them into some of the reinforcements that you can see that I'm bringing up in the back here, namely these Lindon long spears. This is exactly why I brought them, and this is exactly where they need to be on the battlefield at this point in time. Dale is now going to move forward with his first line of infantry, of which he has many. So at this point, I'm a little bit intimidated by the force, by the size rather of this Dalish force. I'm going to move forward with some of my sword quendi, try and secure this position as quickly as possible, beat back those spears, and free up my cavalry for other things. You see, the Khan is actually ridden to my rescue, and he's cut down a lot of those Dalian cavalry, which is going to free up my Enladris cav. Still looking very, very healthy, same as these guys right here. So soon enough, we're going to be able to pull them out and begin to tie up some of these Dalian spears who were trying to go after my cavalry with my own infantry. So things looking pretty decent right here on this side of the battlefield. But let's take a look at how my allies are doing. Not so great. You can see some cavalry charges have gone into the front of this line. The tactics that they are using is to just try and wear down these Hiri Dirith. The Hiri Dirith are very strong battle line infantry. They've got a lot of melee defense and a lot of armor, so it's not going to be easy for their infantrymen to overcome them. But if they can punch through and deal a lot of damage with their cavalry, however, they are going to do much better for themselves. You can see these Camels Dragon Knights doing just that. These poor Hiri Dirith were not prepared at all. The just sheer mass of that cavalry unit charging downhill into their front lines has devastated this unit. I think it's now down to a half strength in a single charge. That is very bad news for Archangel. Some other bad news in the back. You can see that his skirmish line now visible because of the presence of those Camels Dragon Knights. They were close enough to reveal these guys, and now they're going to be... It's basically open season on these Elven archers. You can see archer volleys now beginning to pour into these tight formation troops. They are not well armored. These Hine Dower are going to get slaughtered unless they are repositioned and put into loose formation. So Rune is going to follow that up with a very nicely timed infantry assault. You can see a ton of Lokeflag Rim. The first wave of the Mighty Tide coming to sweep away the Sylvan Elves has now engaged their front lines. Archangel trying to support. These guys are in a good position to be shot down by those archers, but at the same time, Dol Amroth is moving in with their own ranged forces and beginning to scythe through those Elven archers in the back. I swear, I'm not too sure where Toady is right now. I think there's a little bit of chaos in the back lines at the moment. Toady is now trying to mobilize his Dwarven forces and get in there as quickly as possible to help Archangel, but this is a problem, I think. He's not in a position to be able to support his ally very well. His skirmishers are mostly out of range, I believe, and as are a lot of the forces from Archangel's army as well. You can see some Hiri Lang in the back that are essentially cut off. It's not easy for them to move through a lot of this impassable terrain. He's trying to move in with some of his Sinar Blade Masters, but largely this force is isolated, and that is going to be, I think, disastrous for the Sylvan Elves. Over here, the Khazad Warriors forming up to take on a very, very powerful flanking force from Dol Amroth and the Kingdom of Rune. They've got some of their Clan Guard in here. These guys are AP and anti-cavalry, so they are very versatile, and this is the kind of fight that I think that they are going to excel in. Over here, you can see some Clan Crossbowmen doing a number on these poor Khazad Warriors. They really don't have an answer. The dwarves are very, very slow in this patch. Almost prohibitively so. They are, in my opinion, they are very much a camping army because they can't do a lot of quick infantry maneuvers. It's hard for them to reform, hard for them to get off charges with their infantry. So unfortunately for them, they're just going to be stuck here out in the open. There's nothing around, no skirmishers or anything that are moving up to help them. So the dwarves are going to have a really bad time. But let's go ahead and fast forward now. We can see that the Kingdom of Arnor has moved in to try and support his ally. I've actually got a unit of Lindon Longspears here, a little bit too far ahead of themselves. They've left a big gap in our line now. The reason I did this is because, as you can see, they're being shot down by those archers, so I wanted to at least get some use out of them before they died. So I charged them out here, tried to catch some of these cavalry at unawares, but unfortunately they were able to reform and charge into my, my poor spears and devastate them. Unfortunately, it does leave our lines a little bit open. You can see a lot of arrow fire going into these Knights of Enumenos. We're trying to shut them down, but at the same time, Dale has actually managed to break through my center. Cavalry has a lot more mass in this patch, which isn't necessarily something that I agree with, but they're able to muscle their way through infantry lines quite easily. And they're now going to charge into battle against my my Elder and my archers, who are going to have to fall back, reform, and try and push these guys out. You can see they've impaled themselves on these spikes a little bit and managed to get some arrow volleys off in order to weaken them, and at the same time I'm moving in with my Cinder Blade Masters. But still, that's going to cost me time that I could be using to shoot at those Knights of Enumenos, for example, which is my main target at this point. My Elder My Noldor Elder Nobles, I think, are going to get embroiled in a fight here with those Earls. Oh, never mind, they're going to try and scoot right by them and go for my Eldarin Way Archers instead. Well, they are kind of pinned here between the two of them, and honestly, picking a fight, cavalry that's weakened like this, picking a fight with my Noldor Elder Nobles is the last thing that they will ever do. You can see these Dale Earls being pulled out of their saddle and cut down very swiftly by these powerful Noldoran warriors. Moving on over here. Oh, there goes the Dalish general getting cut down in that Dale Earl unit. But you can see over here my Sword Quendi really struggling, actually, against these Dalian Spearmen for holding the line very, very well. I've actually got some cavalry in the back. You can see I'm running just not hammer and anvil strikes, cycle charges into the skirmish line for the Kingdom of Dale. I actually managed to take down a lot of their sword masters, one of their very important elite picks, which is now down to about a third of its strength. So we're doing a number on Dale. Arnor is down, just moving into the fight, and we've still got some plenty of reserves left. I think we've got enough stuff to deal with them at this point in the game, anyway. You can see Dale is really just the shadow of its former glory, and I'm just still running more and more charges into his skirmish line. At the same time, big hammer and anvil charge going into the back of these Lake Town Spearmen. That is going to deal a ton of damage to them, and look at them, they're shaken. Another couple charges like that, and they may consider fleeing from the battlefield. Coltron sees what's happening, so he's going to try and reinforce, move in some of his Lake Town Spearmen, but my cavalry are so fast, and this is what I was talking about earlier. These guys are so swift, they can just get in, get out, charge again with their nice charge bonus, and deal a lot of damage. And that's going to be enough to actually rout the Dalian center. You can see us breaking through these Lake Town Spearmen, not having a good time here either, with the loss of their general and the loss of their comrades, feeling a little bit dispirited, I think. And they're going to be easily surrounded and dealt with. So we're going to surge through the gaps in their lines now and try and move forward and surround what few reinforcements that Arnor has sent to aid their ally. But they have kept the majority of their forces back. Most of these pikemen still in a good position, still looking really, really healthy.
They have lost half their men.
Yeah, not really... Globex isn't really interested in committing these guys at this point. I'm trying to get him to come forward with the constant artillery fire, but he's going to hold his ground. At the same time, there's a little bit of a fight here on the flank. These Dunedain Troll Slayers making mincemeat of these Haruzi heavy infantry. Not an easy fight for this heavy infantry unit. These guys are so strong in melee. A little bit, almost too strong in my opinion, but that's up for debate. They've got a lot of AP damage, and even when surrounded like this, it's not easy to take them down. Let's move on back to the other side and see how things are progressing for my allies. These poor Khazad warriors are now completely surrounded. Dol Amroth getting into their rear with halberdiers while pinning them from the front with those Dol Amroth men-at-arms. You can see that the men-at-arms have suffered quite grievously at the hands of these Khazad warriors. They are by no means an easy unit to beat, but when surrounded like this and completely outnumbered, there's not really a lot of hope for them. Elsewhere, you can see the infantry line looking pretty good so far. Rune is really struggling to break through the elves for the most part. I think there was a big engagement over on this end. Yeah, you can see some of the Woodland Patrol on the ground there. That's the new model in their glaive. And basically the entire Sylvan Elf cavalry contingent, and indeed the entire cavalry contingent for this side of the battlefield, has been wiped out. There's a lot of dead miners, a lot of dead allied soldiers in general. And the Cav's still looking really healthy, so they're really struggling to take down this Dol Amroth Cav, which got a big buff in the .9 mini patch. Campbell's Chosen now in the fray against the Ironfoot Guard. Ironfoot Guard holding out well for now, but these Campbell's Chosen, I think, are gonna begin to regain a little bit of ground. You can see, look at this. This is great positional play and really nice teamwork here. These Coastal Wardens doing a ton of damage to those Ironfoot Guards by pitching their javelins into the flank. That is just, yeah, really good positional play and, as I said, really good teamwork. Elsewhere, it's really looking like the days of the Sylvan Elves and the Dwarves are numbered. You can see more Dol Amroth forces moving into this main battle line, picking up where their allies left off. The Runic infantry has basically been annihilated at this point, and that is because these Sylvan Elves are very strong. Elves in general have very high melee defense, and some of their forces are really well armored as well. So they are not easy to beat in melee. You want to try and skirmish them down, or surround them if at all possible. Attacks from the rear don't really count for their defense bonus. And that's exactly what Dol Amroth is in the process of doing. These Haven Guard, this is really bad. Haven Guard in behind their lines, going to set themselves up for a nice surround, possibly even a hammer and anvil strike if they move out, get a little bit of distance, and charge back in. The Dwarves doing well enough against these Campbell Shadow Guard, but I think there was some Yeah, there is some axe throwers back here that was lending them a little bit of support. This is not normally a fight that the Ironfoot Guard would win 1v1. So they've definitely had some support here against these Camel's Chosen. And look at them, they're just so bloodied up, but still determined to hack down these stunties. And a little bit of fire coming in from the sides. Some beautiful enfilading fire coming in from some Ironfoot axe throwers. If they can get going quick enough, this is going to be a big problem for Rune and Dol Amroth. Although I say that now, and it doesn't seem like their axes are really doing all that much to them. But yeah, you can see defeat now a distinct possibility for these numerically superior forces. Oh man, my poor allies. They're just Dol Amroth surging through any gaps, surrounding what remains of the Sylvan Elves, who are being cut down very, very rapidly. The Dwarves trying to move in, but they're also being attacked in the rear by the cavalry from Rune and Dol Amroth, who have managed to scoot around their formation and come in on the other side of these stakes and get some nice charges into the skirmish line. Yeah, there is some pikes locking down this area over here, but honestly, there's this wide open front that the Dwarves just don't have the numbers at this point to lock down. Looks like the bodyguard charging into the rear of that ballista. That is a big deal. This ballista is all, I think, that's keeping them in the game at this point. This is their best opportunity to do a lot of damage to Dol Amroth and to their ally Rune. Yeah, look at this big juicy target over here. They need to thin these guys out as much as possible. If they are not able to do so, Dol Amroth is going to be able to swing around with an intense numerical advantage. Speaking of things on our side, look at this. Look at the destruction here. A lot of dead Dalish forces, but a lot of dead Variegs as well. This entire line here just got destroyed by the archer companies from Arnor, which honestly is worth it. These were just the, I think it was like Haruzi light infantry or something like that. If they're using up ammunition, that's probably the best that they're going to hope for in a battle like this. Elsewhere, you can see that our lines are basically in disarray. We're trying to launch some attacks here to turn the flank of Glowbox's formation. We're managing to so far beat back these dismounted Arthedain Knights. We're trying to avoid hit the front of his pike line entirely. He doesn't want to wheel his pikes around and begin to surround us, because we still have enough forces here to make a difference. We could move in, surround his pike blocks, and catch them out of formation, which would be very, very bad for them. Elsewhere, you can see I've got some of my cavalry in here fighting against the Dunedain Rangers. Another unit over here of Imladra's Cav, looking to silence some of the clan crossbowmen that Vislak has brought over. Big charge there into the front of the Troll Slayers as well, which is going to take down a few of them, but they have 2 HP, so they're going to be able to stand up to that quite nicely. I'm going to lose a lot of cavalry in that attack, so I'm going to try and pull them out of there as quickly as possible. I want to keep this unit alive and these clan crossbows tied up for as long as possible. You can see another unit of Imladra's Cav circling around, looking for an opening. Big charge into the front of those dismounted Dunedain Troll Slayers, or just Dunedain Troll Slayers, rather. But that's going to result in the very, very fast death of what remains of my cavalry. Yeah, those Dunedain Troll Slayers are nothing to sneeze at in close combat. So I'm going to bring in my unit of Imladra's Cav, try and focus these guys down, keep these clan crossbows tied up for as long as possible. Those AP missiles will wreak havoc upon these New Rad footmen, and we need them to hold. Oh, looks like there's that's the end of the Sylvan Elf General. That looks like a pretty intense fight. Let's go over there and let's check. Let's watch the last stand of the Sylvan Elf forces. Yeah, huddle around these trees, fighting back to back. The Sylvan Elves are heavily outnumbered. They've managed to beat back a lot of troops, though. In their credit, look at what they've done. They've killed a lot of these spearmen. They've killed basically all of Rune's infantry force. All that Rune has left is cavalry and some skirmishers. And the odd unit of like very depleted infantry here and there. Yeah, maybe, given that Dol Amroth is a little bit just kind of bunched up and occupied at the moment, maybe if the dwarves can move in force, they might be able to deal with their forces, surround them possibly, and begin to turn the tide. I think that's their best chance at this point. Let's take a look at how things went over here. This ballista still online. The Mithril Guard alongside the Hiri Bang managed to repulse that bodyguard unit, which is still lurking around somewhere, looking to be a menace. Yeah, it looks like some of the cavalry, some of these Camel's Dragon Knights, and probably the rest of the Runic cavalry is moving over to try and support their allies. They can see, yes, here they are, charging into my Elder and my archers. There was nothing I could do. I didn't even see this coming. The second I saw them there, I was like, oh man, this is going to be brutal, and a lot of my archers are going to fall in that initial charge. Although luckily these bodyguard have been fighting for quite some time, and they're going to be a little bit weakened, which might allow my elves here the opportunity to push them back. Actually, you can see a little bit of friendly fire coming in from the Arnorian companies. Oh man, these poor Nerad footmen. Looks like they're going to have a very bad day, but instead of going for these guys, looks like the bodyguard is targeting this unit of footmen here. Has managed to break through that Arnor pike line. This is really important. If we can't defend this... Oh man, there goes the Condis General as well. But if we can't defend this, then we are in a lot of trouble. This is, like, our infantry is very valuable at this point, especially these Nerad footmen, who are extremely powerful and obviously able to take on these pikemen in a straight fight. Yeah, there's really nothing left at this point. Most of our cavalry is gone, so these bodyguard are going to be able to get a nice hammer and anvil strike into the rear of those Nerad footmen. Very unfortunate. Up here, though, you can see the Brotherhood of the Bow have now charged into battle against the clan crossbows. They're going to be able to destroy this unit, and at least we'll be able to silence the crossbows. Elsewhere, you can see I sent a very healthy unit of Sindar Blade Masters in here. There was 92 in the unit, and they just weren't able to take on these Dunedain Troll Slayers who had less than half their number in close combat. That is how strong the Troll Slayers are. Yeah, they've got a lot of melee defense. In fact, most of their 37 or so defense is on their melee defense, so it's not easy to beat them in close combat. They've got very little armor, though, so your best chance to beat them is to shoot at them from range with some decent missiles. Also, it looks like my Mithlond Nobles have managed to hold the line, surprisingly enough, against the Dunedain Troll Slayers, and they've slowly beaten that unit back, but at great cost to themselves. So we're managing to kind of turn this flank, but I think the addition of these Dunedain Knights here is going to be able to slow us down sufficiently and stop our advance. And elsewhere, these Arthur Knights have managed to break out of that encirclement. So, yeah, things not looking great for us. We don't really have a lot of infantry to move in there to replace our losses at this point. This is beautiful, though. Look at this. Skewered on the end of one of my Noldor Elder Noble's swords. This Runic Bodyguard is just going to have to flee for the hills, but they're not fast enough to run away from my fresh archers. Yeah, the High Elves are very, very swift, so we may actually be able to catch this unit at some point. See some reinforcements moving in here, some Variag nobles trying to support the Nerad footmen who are actually losing very badly here. They're not able to really punch through these pikes in the same way that they were over on this end. So these Variag warriors are going to move in, take on these Dunedain Knights in close combat. Not an easy fight for them, but it's good enough to prevent them from surrounding those Nerad footmen. At the same time, Glowbox is going to take this opportunity to move in with his Arnor pikes. We are firing missiles at them, trying to weaken them, but their armor is such that that's not going to be an easy task. You can see these Nerad footmen trying to move in and help their brothers, overwhelming this tiny little unit of Arnor pikes here. Big charge going into the rear of these Arnor pikes. That is going to hurt. Oh man, these poor Variag warriors, though. Being absolutely brutalized. Yeah, we're still in it, but it's definitely in favor of Arnor and their allies at this point. Especially now with the arrival of some Dol Amroth cav on this side of the field. Yeah, a lot of Tirith Air Knights charging the battle against my Elder and my archers, who just got flattened. These Troll Slayers still in the fight, still killing stuff. These guys are just so strong. My ally Khand moving in with his Brotherhood of the Bow, some very swift cavalry trying to shut down these Tirith Air Knights, and at the same time I'm moving in to work in tandem with my ally, surround these guys, and take them down. Nice charge there. That's going to be the end of those Tirith Air Knights, and the end of Arnor's General as well. So some beautiful teamwork there. Elsewhere, another unit of my Elder and my Nobles just got flattened by those bodyguard. An attack from the rear now from my Elder and my Nobles, rather, but it's just not going to be enough. These guys have such high mass that they can just muscle through anything. They're going to be able to scoot away very nimbly before my forces can catch them. Dolramroth now moving in force. You can see, oh wow, still got one unit of Imladris Cav here, holding the line all by himself. Look at this guy, a true hero of the Elven Nation. Still trying to hack down those crossbows. Single and very bloody-minded. Oh man, big charge going in to those Tirith Air Knights. But we are going to be able to surround them. They're going to flatten that unit of Brotherhood of the Bow, but it's going to give us the opportunity to get some of our my archers and my Elder and my Nobles or my Noldor Elder Nobles in there to surround these guys and try and take down their cav. Oh man, those Knights of the Silver Sworn just getting absolutely destroyed from the rear by those Noldor Elder Nobles. And there goes Dol Amroth's general as well. Beautiful, beautiful thing right there. Let's take a look at my allies. It looks like the Sylvan Elves have been extinguished. They put up a great fight, but it just wasn't enough. That cavalry was too hard for them to deal with, especially since the dwarves didn't bring any. The Runic and Dol Amroth players definitely had cav superiority, and that's has showed its worth here, I think, on this battlefield today, definitely. What remains of the dwarves now fighting back-to-back these Khazad sentries, trying to poke holes in these Dol Amroth men-at-arms. Arms backed up by what remains of that Camel's Chosen unit. Surprisingly enough, they are still alive. But yeah, their efforts are all in vain at this point with that surround. Yeah, there's still some dwarves left. Still got some crossbows, but yeah, not a lot of the dwarven army left. Not a lot of infantry. And at this point, the Sylvan Elves have almost nothing left as well. A few units of archers here, but nothing major. I think those crossbows are probably skirmishing with those Clan crossbowmen. An easy fight in favor of the Dwarven Ironfoot crossbows. But this seems to be where the real action is at this point. Yeah, we're just being overrun. There's nothing left that we can do. These Brotherhood of the Axe now have been committed to the fray. And they were hacking down those Dol Amroth men-at-arms, but they're now being charged from the rear by Dunedain Knights. Yeah, there's basically nothing left of our armies at this point. Although it is quite close percentage-wise. They're only ahead by about 8%, but I'm sure that's going to grow very, very quickly. Oh man, these poor Variags. They did their best to hold back the Honor Pikemen, but it's just too hard to fight these guys from the front. There's almost nothing that can beat Pikemen in a straight fight in this current iteration of the patch. You need to be able to flank them, or you need to weaken them with missiles like we were trying to do. Elsewhere, what remains of my Elven contingents are putting up a brave last stand on the top of this hill. You can see these Elder Archers trying to hold back the tide of Dol Amroth to give my nobles the time they need to deal with this unit of Halberdiers and avoid a complete surround, and at least have a line fight on their terms where they can do very well for themselves. But Dol Amroth is just absolutely relentless. Look at this. You can see some Dol Amroth men, or archers rather, have moved in, firing into the rear of my Noldor Elder Nobles. They're not going to do a whole lot because of the armor value on the Nobles versus the attack of the Dol Amroth archers, but still. It does have an effect on morale to be attacked from the rear. Dol Amroth now moving in force, looking to surround these guys. My Nobles are going to turn around and launch one final charge into their enemies. They're going to do a reasonable amount of damage in the process. Look at these guys trying to huddle together, and there goes my general. The Noldor Elder Nobles just weren't able to keep him safe with so many Dol Amroth men-at-arms and halberds surrounding that poor unit. And there you have it, the last stand of my Elven forces. And that really only leaves one person with something resembling a functional army left on the battlefield. And you can see that they are in no better position than my Noldor nobles were just a moment ago. Oh, the victorious forces from Arnor and Rune are all now converging on this position, trying to take out what remains of the Dwarven army. Some Haven Guards still around, still kicking, cutting down these crossbowmen. Crossbowmen just not up to the task of fighting that elite unit in close combat. So these Mithril Guard pushing on very, very bravely against these Tarnossian Guard and these Dol Amroth men-at-arms. They're going to beat the crap out of these guys, but unfortunately, in their zeal and with their high mass, they just push forward and push forward, which is going to allow them to be surrounded. They are slowly hacking their way out of it, but there's more and more troops coming in to replace the ones that have fallen. Charge! Yeah, that's right, right into the Haven Guard, hacking down those very elite swordsmen. Oh man, look at that push. These guys are just monsters. Just tanks in close combat. Although unfortunately with the addition of that pike wall, I think that's going to be all she wrote for the Mithril Guard. Yeah, let's fast forward here and witness the final stand of the forces for my team. A very, very good battle. Yeah, let's go ahead and let's slow it down to about 5% speed. Or 50% speed. And just take a look. One final look here at the battlefield. Yeah, big decisive defeat here for the Sylvan Elves, especially on that right wing. All along the line, though, there's a lot of dead elves. They managed to do their best to hold back the tide, but ultimately they were simply overwhelmed by those constant cavalry charges. So great use of the cavalry on the part of the enemy team really was the decisive factor in the battle over on the other end. Elsewhere, man, there's so many dead everything. This was a really close fight. I think we would have been able to beat Arnor if their allies hadn't come to save them. We definitely had the infantry to do it, and we were already in the process of doing so with those Nuriag footmen or whatever they were. But the addition of that cavalry would just prove to be a little bit too much. So taking a look at the casualties here, I didn't do too badly, 2,400. Tody did even better with the dwarves, cutting down 2,700 of his enemies. Archangel and Von Mountain definitely doing their best, getting a respectable 1,200 kills. Elsewhere, Pope Fluffy Duck getting himself 2,400 kills just about. Glowbox with a massive 3,300. Bislak coming in with nearly 2,000. And Cold Front, Dale really, I think, struggled against the High Elven forces. But the High Elven forces in melee generally tend to outmatch Managed forces, so a little bit unsurprising. Taking a quick look down all the casualties inflicted, my Noldor Elder Nobles did really well. There's like 49 men in the unit and they killed 246, very impressive. Imlandra's Cavalry getting 323, this other unit getting 204. My Blade Master's doing well, and that Ballista more than paid for itself. So that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this battle, and I will see you in the next one. It's going to be, I think it's going to be another 4v4 on point 9. It seems to be getting a lot of 4v4s lately. There's also going to be some Seven Kingdoms Total War, and some other stuff coming up as well. Probably some more Let's Play series. I want to get back to that and try and finish off some of them before the end of summer. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye!